A first question: how do you think why Pentagon decided to release the video with a UFO from even 2019 these days? Why did they decide to do that?
I think there's a few factors involved. For years and years, going back to the 40s and 50s, there have been these claims that the U.S. Air Force has had contact with, people from outer space. They have a couple of examples of that even in Star Trek and the fictional science fiction series in the United States. It was very popular. And I think some of the people that are aligned with President Trump from the right are some of those are inclined to believe, these things, that there's a government conspiracy with space aliens. And so I think that anything that looks like a sunshine act by the government on this particular issue will appeal to them, this small set of people. That's one part of it. Right now, because of lockdown, people's social life is essentially whatever's on television. You have a huge, massive, global captive TV audience right now. And although it might have seemed that Hollywood and the TV studios had produced an infinite amount of programming, in fact, they've been tearing through it pretty quickly over the last couple of months. And so anything new and spectacular that they can serve up, maybe it'll get some play. And so they're bringing that to the market just to see if it'll sell. They can make some money on it. I think that's an important element of it too. It's something that has the value of producing a sensationalist headline, and people right now will see it. And it's a distraction from some of the other questions that people should be asking, and a lot of people are asking, like why is it that when there's a virus that comes through the population like this, we don't have the wherewithal to deal with it immediately, but rather have to build it? Why is it that millions of people have no health care? Why is it that some places are prepared for this kind of thing socially? If you look at how it's spread through the U.S., for example, or Italy, as opposed to how it's spread through Nicaragua, there are a lot of questions that come up with respect to public health policy and such. And things also like, by the way, if we can divert $1 trillion to try to save 50,000 lives from this disease, why is it that last year we couldn't devote $150 billion to prevent 9 million people from starving to death? There's a lot of questions that should be on the agenda right now that people from outer space in the news helps to distract attention from. So I think it's a little bit of all three of those elements.
So you agree? Because I read a lot of news at CNN and so on and so forth. And do you agree that Trump trying to distract American people from the whole virus team?
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that's part of it, and not just Trump, the whole government, and the whole establishment. There's an element of it. First of all, from Trump's point of view, his public relations image that he's trying to cultivated successfully with half the population. He is not an insider. Those people keep secrets. They conspire. I'm going to shine daylight on it. The Area 51 outer space myth or whatever construct is one such thing. It's been a conspiracy theory for 60 years. And so, he becomes president. See, look, I took the lid off of that too, even off of that. It would be like revealing all of the secret files in the Kennedy assassination or something. It has that kind of public relations value for him. I think that's the real driver. And then, of course, again, they're looking for almost anything to put on television besides Mario Cuomo. I mean, right now you have several TV stations, CNN 1 and 2 in particular, that are running almost 24 hours a day, bland speeches from the various governors around the United States who can barely put a sentence together. That's one of the things that I've learned in this, by the way. These guys are overexposing themselves to the public because they think it's the FDR moment with a fireside chat or something, or that they get to be Rudy Giuliani and America's mayor at 9/11 or whatever. So every one of them that can grab a microphone is sitting down in front of it for an hour or two or three. And because everyone is home with nothing to do but watch television, there's an audience for each and every one of these people. Well, you find out all of a sudden, just because you're governor doesn't mean you're literate. Because they sit in front of a microphone for 2 hours, about 10 minutes into it, they've run out of things to say. And the totality of, of the information inside their head. So there's a lot of opportunity for other programming. Science fiction has always been very popular. Outer space, hugely popular. And, I remember NASA and the space race and all of that stuff was huge for like 20 years when I was growing up. Certainly there's a possibility that floating secret files of the U.S. Air Force with space aliens is going to catch on TV and start trending for a while and, keep people either entertained or distracted or both.
Yeah, and about this, is it real that American people is really interested in all aliens, UFO, and others?
Well, it's funny. They would love to welcome aliens from another galaxy. If they come from across the border, 50 miles away, then they get nervous. But yeah, we had our image of space aliens cultivated originally as these big, ugly, spindly monsters from Mars. H.G. Wells and and all of that was an other. It was evil. It was monster. That changed dramatically with Star Trek in 1966, 67, 68, 69. Huge impact on American culture, Western culture, I think global culture. And those aliens, there were some, the Klingons and the different ones that were Romulans that were fighting with the Federation. But the Federation itself was actually a conglomeration of, various species of aliens from around the galaxy, who kind of seemed to be actually based on, in terms of its construct, the Soviet Union, various nationalities, into one large entity. And people were raised and trained to look at aliens as friendly people from another planet who would be glad to take you on a tour of the galaxy in their little spaceship. So I don't know. There's been a lot of water under the bridge since 1969, 1970, when they finally finished the original series of Star Trek. They've had a lot of wars on this Star Trek Next Generation and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, with a lot of evil empire kind of enemies. So maybe the culture has changed. Certainly it's changed in every other way since the 60s here. But I think there's still a fondness for the idea of there being civilizations elsewhere in outer space, elsewhere in the universe, and an excitement that kind of goes with it that, it's sort of a hangover or reminiscent of the first days of the space age and the race to the moon and all of that.
I see. And I read that almost every president of United States at first trying to put some evidence about the UFO, and then when he was elected, he it didn't happen. So
we're talking about Trump.
Yeah, it was even Carter, I suppose, and so it was a lot of American presidents who is trying to talk people more about the aliens, and Trump started it, I think, in last year. So is it some kind of traditions, maybe, do you think, or it's just a coincidence?
No, it's the same. It's first of all, there's wide interest in the subject. Um, for some people, it's an obsession. For a small group of people, this is what they live for. They believe that the Air Force shot down, or there was a crash or whatever of some alien spaceship in the early '50s, and that somewhere in Nevada, Area 51 or whatever, they've got the spacecraft and the bodies of the aliens stashed, and they learned some secret knowledge about things or whatever. There's some people that actually believe that. Here in the United States, you'll find people that there's a group of people somewhere. It's a big country, so that's part of it. But there's a group of people somewhere that believe just about anything. And this is one of the anythings that some subset of the American population believes. Be that as it may, it's become a symbol in the larger culture for government secrets. Well, what really did happen at Area 51? Why can't you just tell us 50 years after the fact? People that don't believe in space aliens, there must have been something that happened then. What did you do? Did somebody steal $1 billion? What, did a nuclear warhead, escape and go off under Reno? What did happen in 1953 or 51 or whatever? And why can't we talk about it now? It's a symbol of, government secrets that are part of the open set of government secrets. Who killed JFK really? Who killed Bobby Kennedy really? Who really killed Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, et cetera, et cetera? There are certainly questions that deal with the official narrative, quite well. There should be questions because the official narratives don't hold water, and those things are symbolic to candidates running for office and for voters. Hi, I'm running for office. Yes, they've kept Area 51 secret from you, JFK, RFK, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, blah, 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 all of that secret from you. When I get in there, I'm going to go look at that stuff and open the books up to the people. It's an easy, cheap thing to do. It's not like saying, when I get in there, I'm going to tax every person that has more than $500 million of wealth, put it back in the kitty, and then divvy it up among the rest of the population to try to equalize the outcomes of our economy. That'll get you shot saying that. This other stuff, people will giggle, laugh, and know that when you get in there, you're going to find out either you can't tell those secrets, or you won't tell those secrets, or there are no secrets. There's something that goes on because they all promise it. It all sounds good. It sounds like good, open, clean government's on the way. And they get in there, and it's like, anyway, we have more important concerns than Area 51. So I think it falls into a set of a number of things where, rightly or wrongly, the popular mythology is we have not been told the whole truth. And it's something where someone could promise and distinguish themselves from everyone else, by promising to reveal to the people, I'm going to get that secret information, and I'm going to bring the files in front of the cameras, and you'll know what happened. I think that's what's going on. Trump does that just like every one of them going back did that in one way or another.